French press review. We're going to have a detailed look at what's on the inside pages of these stories. One story that appears to have been released before the papers went to the press is that's the Eurozone resolution.
Well, the euro crisis yesterday was dealt with in Brussels by European leaders, and the French press is giving the full coverage of that, inside and outside. And we go first to Le Figaro, where you see the headline there, L'Europe sauve la Grèce et renforce l'euro, saving Greece and beefing up the euro. So the photo, of course, showing four European leaders, Christine Lagarde in Washington, of course, at the IMF, but four of them, all smiles. Things could not be better. And the paper is saying that this is just a little bit of firefighting. The Greek wildfire in its inside pages has been put out. Of course, again, smiles there, Lagarde, la zone euro éteint l'incendie grec. Of course, on the downside, there's this focus as well on just how difficult it all was. Berlin and Paris holding 7 hours of talks on Wednesday. Then there were phone calls round the clock before Thursday's agreement. In its business pages, Le Figaro is saying this 158 billion euro package will cost French people in terms of fiscal discipline. Paris has pledged to keep its public deficit to within 3% of GDP by 2013 at the latest. That's already supposed to be the case.
They are supposed to be doing that anyway, to be fair, so it would be good if they were playing by the rules.
But they haven't been. But all eyes will now be on them to make sure that it does do that. In terms of the belt tightening for French people, one of the examples in Le Figaro is only one civil servant out of two going into retirement will be replaced, but there's a long list of other ones.
They do that. That is playing in part of some of the policies that Nicolas Sarkozy likes to use anyway, so perhaps it is playing into his hands to a certain extent. What about the business press? How have they been reacting?
Les Echos is saying that this agreement yesterday in Brussels was historic. The Franco-German couple, Nicolas Sarkozy and Angela Merkel, have played starring roles once again. There is some concern, though. Les Echos is asking whether this Paris-Berlin tandem can continue in the long term. It's wondering whether the EU project, the great ideal of creating a stronger Europe, will only get a new lease of life from the German Chancellor leaving her job and being replaced by someone else. Les Echos is also pointing out that this agreement, again, made in extremis, and that has to dampen enthusiasm. Let me turn to the left-wing paper, Libération. It's leading there on its front page, Crise de l'euro. Qui va payer? It doesn't really spell out exactly who, but it does detail the finances for stakes and banks. It says the deal was crucial, but had to be reached by using forceps. There's a quote in the paper in the inside pages saying a European diplomat attending yesterday was saying the taboos in the discussion were dropped. They all went managing the euro from the position of a nation state just will not work anymore. So the direction of Europe perhaps coming together.
A demonstration, perhaps, of the sense of urgency that is being felt in the Eurozone about this situation. Now, moving on, there is another story in the press that you've dug up for us. It's about Twitter and the trend that is new to France, apparently.
Le Parisien is not opting for the big story. It's opting instead for Twitter, and it's pointing out that French people are now involved in this worldwide craze. 2 million people are now signed up in France. Politicians are getting 10 to 20,000 followers. That's a long way from Barack Obama. I just looked at Barack Obama's Twitter page. He's got over 9.2 million. And the cartoon in the paper there, you probably can't see it, but I found it very entertaining. There's a man down in the south of France, and he's twittering away, and his wife says to him, "Well, you've twittered 15 times that it's hot and lovely here. Why are you doing that?" And he says, "Well, this is a really good way to annoy my friends back in Paris." So one-upmanship there for you.
He may well be right, because we've had a pretty rotten couple of weeks of weather here in Paris. I don't know about where you are around the world. Thank you, Nicolas Rochworth, for all the front pages and the inside pages of the French press. You'll be back in about an hour with the international press and the French press. Again, another look at that. You're watching live from Paris at France 24. Let's take a look at the headlines that we are covering this morning.